I'll be you. This be Laoshi Lawrence McElroy here for Water Tiger School of Taijiquan. And we be shooting this video. Enough of that for a moment. In September, and that means we're pretty close to International Talk Like a Pirate Day, which is September 19th every year. This has been the annual t-shirt, my yin yar t-shirt. So you have the yin yang symbol, you have the pirate on one side, you have the ninja on the other. Not quite ethnically appropriate. It's not good at the top of the video. I'm already stumbling over my language. Embrace the Tao or walk the plank. So this has been a traditional t-shirt since we started doing Facebook Live. But man, this is not going to go well today, is it? Facebook Live and YouTube starting with home isolation in 2020. We did, for some reason, miss 2021. We did shoot video in September of 2021, but we didn't wear this t-shirt, and I don't think we talked about Talk Like a Pirate Day. Never trust a Tai Chi player who don't talk like a pirate. So anyway, there's that. If you've been with us for a while, you realize that this is going to be a Tai Chi focus because the blue tape is down for our shoulder width. So we'll talk about that as we get going. Today's focus is going to be about finding the Tai Chi bows. B-O-W-S, not B-O-S-E, so we're not talking about sound design or anything. A little kind of archery-ish theme. Some of the stuff may be a little bit more non-traditional point of view as to finding the Tai Chi bows in the body. Others a little bit more recognizable for those who have been with Tai Chi for a while, done research, experience, classes, seminars, that sort of thing, because a lot of instructors talk about bows in different ways. We've made passing references to the bows in the body over the last 4 years as we've been shooting these videos, but this time that's going to be our main focus. We're going to start with a warm-up from the first set of Shibashi, or Shibashi, depending upon your point of view when it comes to the pronunciation. It's our understanding that Shibashi is actually, is the more appropriate pronunciation, but everybody seems to lean into Shibashi, so that's the one that we go with as well. Regardless, there are 8 different sets. Shibashi translates to either 18 or 18 movements, and each of the set has 18 movements. The sets were created by Lin Hao Sheng between the years of 1979 and 1990. And the first couple of sets are the most popular. We can speak to that popularity. We took over a public program from an instructor that retired back at the end of last year. He was doing the set. That's sort of how we got a little bit more formally introduced. We've ran into it a few times over the years, but never focused on it, and decided, since it seemed so popular, and he told us that it was popular, that we'd add it to our catalog of what we offer. And it is their favorite. Now, each of the individual 18 pieces in any of the given sets have their own specific, long, detailed lists of therapeutic qualities. I'll tell you, I'm going to be reading off the cue cards when it comes to that part of the video today, when I talk about the ones for the piece upon which we are focusing. But generally, the sets are just done because, one, they're kind of fun to do. The movements are relatively simple. I usually use the descriptor as, complexity wrapped in simplicity, because they are very effective. You can, if you're more attuned to the way things move internally in your body, you can feel things moving internally in your body when you're playing this set. But generally, too, the overall perception is that people do them, one, because they're fun and they're easy, and two, because they just leave you feeling good. So they're good for your general overall health and well-being, not just specific qualities. And the one that we're going to focus on today is the 9th in the first set, And for us, it's called pushing the palms or pushing palms. It's also known out there as Repel the fiery dragon, twisting waist and pushing palms, pushing the mountains, and I'm sure there are others. So let me finish my mince, I guess. We'll get into this. Talk a little bit more detail about the health benefits. So again, sorry, but I'm going to kind of just read this. Strengthens the dantian, legs and back. Promotes the flow of internal qi. Promotes the flow of qi through the legs and back, reducing waist and back strain. And the accumulation of excess fat around the waistline. Pun intended, I wouldn't put a lot of weight on that last one. Yes, the movement does activate the core and does a nice job in doing that, but it's not very intense. It's not intense to the point that you're going to be burning a lot of calories. So I question the excess fat around the waistline, but you know, a little bit maybe. Helps the digestion, specifically bowels and bladder. The hand positions open, stimulates, and tonify the large intestine meridian, improve conditions related to the stomach and spleen, so again, digestion, and strengthens and improves kidney function, again, bowels and bladder. Strengthens the waist and boosts stamina, and moves qi through the lower and middle dantian. So there you go. And again, the movement's not all that complicated. Lower body and upper body, of course, combined. Lower body movement is going to have this little pump. So you also get the lungs and the heart. Anytime you're squatting down into the body a little bit and coming up out of it, that pump activates the heart and the lungs. But on the exhalation, there's going to be a slight sink. We don't go too deep. And then you hold the movement and hold the breath. And then on the inhale, you come up. There's no hold between the inhale and the next exhale. The holds are only down. And again, movement and breath, but not lower body movement and breath, but not upper body movement. It will continue to move. It doesn't stop. And then an inhale up and an exhale down. And again, holding the lower body and the breath, but not the upper body, as you go from one side to the other side. We do individual palms. The thing that activates the waist and the Shia Dantian is the fact that the palm strike comes to the center line. So you have this little twist. I want to point out, this is almost a preview to talking about the bows, in that some people do this, and one, it'll be shoulder height, still going to the center line, and the arm basically completely elongated. I like to keep the feeling of that bow in that arm, so the elbow's not tucked in, it's not overextended, it's not out too far, it's just right, and it's a little bit lower, kind of more like chest height than shoulder height. To get there, the hands start in a chambered position. Notice I'm not pulled back. They're kind of split between just the side of the body and the front plane of the body. And I'm not below the hips. I'm not above the hips. Again, that extension is too much. I lose the activation in the arms. This is too much compression, and I lose the looseness of the arms. And also, just look what happens to my shoulders when they come up there. So about mid-hip. Get another drink before we do this. Breathe when you have to. Yes, it's going to have the pattern that I suggested before. That's ideal. But that hold in the middle can be difficult for some people. Shoulder width. And as you might know, if you've been with us before, Water Tiger defines shoulder width by where the drop of the shoulder is, splits the foot in half. My toes are toward you. Your toes should be toward me. And yeah, I know I give a lot of detail, a lot of instruction. That's the purpose of our videos. Even though the things we're doing, we're workshopping. We're not just sort of doing a follow the leader thing, which the library program, the public class program that I mentioned before, that's an experiential program. That's just leading. It's like an exercise class, like any other exercise class where you just have somebody in front doing stuff and you're following in their footsteps, more or less. That's what that particular program is like. This is a little bit more instructional. So there are plenty of videos out there where all they do is demonstrate what it is. And they don't actually get into the details. We want to get into the details. That's why we do it this way. And it's also very stripped down. There's definitely no distractions. Very simplified. So anyway, chambering. Going to start high. High as in height from the floor, not high as in, been to the marijuana dispensary. I'm going to find an inhalation. Nice quiet breaths. Exhale, I'm going to sink down. Rotate that wrist, pushing the palm and settling the wrist to the center line. Again, about chest height. Then hold the breath. Rotate the wrist, turn the palm up, and inhale in. And exhale. 6 to 9 pairs here. Hold the breath. Inhale. Exhale. Hold the breath. Inhale. I'm going to slow this down a little bit. Here's the second to the second side. I'm not really turning the torso as much as I am folding it in toward the center. 3. And 3. Four. And 4. Five. And 5. 6. And 6. Let's go to 9. 7. And 7. 8. And 8. 9. And 9. Now, Shibashi has its own particular closing, but we're just going to do our standard Water Tiger School close. So notice my hands have released. They're turning palm down. Don't have too much activation in the wrist, but there's enough. I'm going to find my right foot. That's where the weight's going to go. My left foot's going to empty. So the hands float up, out, away from the body. Notice the upper body, lower body connection, that I seek to have that alignment into that foot as the hands reach the peak. And then the hands coming in matches the same amount of time it takes to bring the foot in, ideally. And then pressing the heel down, notice I'm lengthening the body. And then sitting back down into the body to pull the hands to the Shia Dantian. And then a breath or two, a little internal kind of inventory, body scan kind of thing, just to feel where things are. And there you go. From the first set of Shibashi, the 9th piece, pushing palms. So to transition And our focus on the bows, or finding the Tai Chi bows in the body, we actually cracked open a copy of the Tao Te Ching. Now, there are a lot of different translations. There are a lot of different translations in our studio library. But we kind of like this one of a cutting, small part of chapter 77. The way of heaven is like stretching a bow. The top is pulled down. The bottom is pulled up. Excess string is removed. Where more is needed, it is added. As we get into this bow image, remember just that. It's an image. We can't take it too literally, though some aspects of this conversation are going to sound, yeah, he's taking it pretty literally. But the whole bow and string idea, probably not the best to focus on itself, but that feeling of that arc or arch, which is another way of it could be, very well be, finding the Tai Chi arcs through the body, or arches. I actually like using the word arch. Some people say that, talk about an arch, you're talking about the arch of your foot. Otherwise, it needs to be an arc. But I believe high school was a long time ago. But that's when I was, when I did some architectural things in my high school training. And that was one of the things that we discussed, was the structure of the arch, and how, with the proper materials and built the proper way, proper mathematics, that sort of thing, that an arch can really hold a lot of weight. There was a book series that was sort of a major part of it too. But anyway, I'm switching from my cool tea to my warmer tea. So we'll get into the more traditional stuff as this continues. But let's start a little non-traditionally. Because most people will talk about a small number of bows in the body. But they're big bows, and there's something to be said for that. But seeking to find activation in the various parts of the body, start to break down the various parts of the body. So, for instance, the hands. And so we have, for the most part, when we're doing our Tai Chi, we have what's known as the delicate lady hand, the beautiful lady hand. It's that relaxed. But notice it's rounded. It's almost like a nice sort of medium-sized cereal bowl could be sitting there. But that position in and of itself is a bow, a very small bow. And think even smaller than that, the fingers. Right? I'm not tensing. I'm not creating tension. But that activation is there. The structure is there. So if I don't have the structure there, if they're overextended, they're easily folded. If they're too folded, they're easily folded. But if they're just right, it has the ability, like a reed in the wind, to be resilient while still relaxed. So the hand, the digits themselves, if they're in the right place, with the right amount of activation, feeling the viscosity of the air, swimming in air or dry land swimming, as you're moving into position, there's a bow. Though, when we talk about the main bows of the body in Tai Chi, we don't separate the arm from its connection to other parts of the body, but the arm itself. Find the bow of the arm, including the hand in this instance, where if it's in the right space, the right place, the chest is sunk, the back is rounded. Another small bow, right? That horizontal bow across the body that creates a looseness underneath the arms, which we don't do the whole fist underneath the arm thing at Water Tiger School, but we talk about that looseness there that is created when the chest is slightly concave and the back is slightly convex. That's a bow. So arm, chest and back. If they're, you have to feel your way, that it's in the right spot. Again, if I'm in the right spot there, the single bow of the arm into the upper body, the elbow is harder to press in. If my arm is overextended, it's easy to trap that, and then you're off balance. If it's out too far, it's easy to collapse and take control of, or to elongate, to pull down, or to push into the body. But if it has that arc, that arch, that bow, it becomes resilient. You have, if you're standing, you have the position of the knees. I like that this is called horse stance. We have a thing that we talk about at Water Tiger School where we mention, some people call it a horse stance, and they say that because it's a horse stance, riding a horse stance, that if you're riding a horse, your knees should be coming slightly in, pinching the sides of the horse to hold yourself in saddle. Other people will say, if you're riding a horse, the horse's body, the rib cage, will push your knees out, so your knees should be facing away from your center line, which tells us you need to find the right place for your knees. And that right place is determined by where are they, where they're solid three-dimensionally. That, again, I'm not tensing, but I don't have to because they're in the right spot, where the bow of the leg, forgetting about how it comes into other places for now, not forgetting, but just sort of ignoring, that the leg itself makes up a bow. That as you're moving through the postures, how an activation, like say, for us, parting the wild horse's mane, here, that yes, large bow, there's more parts, but small bow, I can feel across from my left shoulder to my right hip. The larger bow is more. So we have all of these little tiny, some of them not too tiny because we're talking limbs here, of the bows in the body. And what that does for us is that even though those smaller bows are part of larger bows, that it opens up our attention, our focus, our mindfulness of the bow's parts. Because a bow is only as strong as its components. The joints, the tendons, the fascia, the sinew. I hesitated adding muscles to that because it's not about muscular strength. It's about how they are activated within that structure that creates the bow that gives you, again, the resilience that's necessary for what it is that you're doing, the springiness that's necessary, the bounce, the compression and release of your movement comes from the power of the bow. Now, as a transition from the small bows to the larger bows and more recognized, some people will say 3. We didn't really go into that. We wanted to stick with the more traditional 5 bows of the body. The longer the bow, the more powerful it is. The strength of a bow is partially determined not only by how the strength of its components, the quality of its components, but also its length. So the longer the bow, generally speaking, it has greater strength. The shorter bows, more limited in power. But we feel the little bows that's sort of our non-traditional thought at Water Tiger School, that the smaller aspects of the bow are bows themselves. And they support the larger bow. So the 5 bows, generally recognized in Tai Chi, cover more space. So you have through the chest into the arms. Now take a position as simple, yes, I'm sorry, I used the S word, as embrace the moon. So my feet are shoulder wide, as close to parallel as possible. My toes are forward, my heels are back, my heels are back, my legs are open. Let's see where I'm at. You can sort of see the shadow there underneath my feet. I'll move up a little bit so it becomes a little bit more prominent. Notice the roundness, right? That if I'm in too close, that's easily collapsed or pulled out. If I'm out too far, again, it pushes into my shoulder, so it's a little bit different kind of pushing back, or again, easily pulled forward. If I'm in the right spot, my arms hold up themselves. If my elbows are dropped too much, the bow dies. It's, again, easily to smash, easily to press the elbows in. My elbows are out. Notice, very vulnerable there with it more easily pushed down, but even more importantly, pushed up. But if you're in the right spot, I can't guarantee this works for everybody. But a little story. Found myself and my wife a little bit close to the mosh pit at a Nine Inch Nails concert a few years back. And people were sort of starting to crash into us. So I did this with her there. And people stopped running into us because we were immobile. It's kind of cool because if you see a photo of the mosh pit from that particular concert, you can find us because there's a little space, not a lot, but a little space between us and everybody at the concert. So that is an example of the power of that kind of position. But from one arm through the chest into the other arm. And it doesn't matter, even if we go into a position like ward off. So I'm going to do this in a left force stance to start. For us, the forward foot determines if it's a left or a right stance. Other people would say this is a right force stance because to get into it, you start in the right leg. Our force stance is shoulder width. Again, right heel on the right railroad track or the right blue line, left heel on the left. For our force stance, toes forward or in a little bit, not out and away. Knee, over ankle is safest, over top of the foot is fine. I don't want to go over or beyond the toes. Back knee, facing the same direction as the toes, ideally 45, so from toes forward to toes to that side of the space, about halfway in between. We say about 45 because though 45 is the place for which we're shooting, I guess that's another bow pun, not everybody can be there. Hips are square. So our ward off, when we first teach it, we usually say, palm up. So a lot of people end up in this position to begin with, which is fine to start with, but then we have them tilt the elbow slightly out. And now you have the unbendable arm. I know our ward off, interposture ward off, looks like a lot of people's Parting Wild Horses may. So there's fingertips into one side of the chest through the shoulders. Our secondary arm, kind of fingers, I'm going to drop here. So you can see almost to the crook of the elbow. And the elbow is not up, it's not down, it's out. So again, it's in the right spot. And I can feel left hip pulling back, right hip pushing forward, pressing forward. The connection from one hand into the other through that first bow. In Parting the Wild Horses mane, our Parting the Wild Horses mane, the up hand matching the forward leg, palm in front of the center of the chest, this hand. Again, notice, not down here, elbows not in, I'm not up here, I'm in the plane of the body. With, again, the right hip pressing forward, the left hip pulling back. I can feel the connection between the hands and arms through the chest. Second bow, through the abdomen and down the legs. So as we specified in Ma Bo, the legs themselves are bows, but they're part of this larger bow, which is that arc. I mean, actually, this actually looks more like, a traditional architectural arc through the belly and down through the legs, through the abdomen and into the legs. And that's the same here. So it creates, in this position, as I said, the knees are right, so they're not easily manipulated. It's the same here. Hips square. My knees are in the right structure, and I have that bow connected through the abdominals. That knee isn't easily collapsed or opened up in either instance. So I have that bow. Now, I spoke earlier about a smaller bow that you can feel in these positions that cross the torso. The third and the fourth bow are mirrors of one another, because one is from the left arm across the torso and down into the right leg. The other is from the right arm across the body and down into the left leg. So let's do a right force stance this time, just for variety. I'm going to get another drink. Clear my throat. That's probably that did that to it. So I'm going to turn that left foot out to around a 45-degree angle. Again, if you've been with us for a while, I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, but I have a nice pretty scar right there. So sometimes my left foot is fine at the 45, other times it is not. There are, well, these days it's sort of 4 screws because it was originally 3 and one of them broke a couple years ago. You don't want to hear about that. Actually, there's a video. We did a seated meditation that day. So right foot, again, a little bit closer to you. Right toes straight toward you or a little bit in. About 70%, I didn't talk about the weight earlier. About 70% of the weight's in the front leg, about 30% of the weight's in the back. I want to make sure with that back foot, the outside of the instep is down onto the ground. There's my nice arch there. You'd never know that I had flat feet when I was a kid. Scoring off the hips. If I do ward off, then I feel that connection, ideally, through the bow, from the fingertips, through the body, down that left leg. So that's the right side. The left, I feel that roundness and that bow down and into the right leg. And if I'm in Parting the Wild Horses mane, again, from this aspect of this bow, not only in expanding out, but also compressing back in. Same here, not only in expanding out, but compressing back in, unbendable arm. I feel that connection down through the body into the back foot. Here, from that block and down into that leg. So that's 3 and 4. The fifth is a little bit more esoteric, shall we say, because the fifth is the spine. We tend to place sometimes what could be considered too much emphasis on the uprightness of the spine. Though it's not an uprightness, like if I was doing a yoga set and I lengthen, almost like my feet are on the ground and somebody's lifting me from my crown point of my head up into the heavens, and everything is lengthened, not pushed back, not locked off or anything. But the spine hangs like a string of pearls, so it's relaxed. The spine hangs like a string of pearls, so it can be relaxed. So like a bow, the top is pulled down, the bottom is pulled up. You have that ability to compress the spine and expand through the spine like a bow does. Top pulls down, bottom pulls up. There's your compression. Releasing, the spine expands, just as a bow would. So, from releasing to compressing. And that's the fifth bow, the spine. So, like so, it's a good transitional word. Have I said that before in today's video? Yes, start small. It might actually be easier to start big, admittedly. But keep in mind that the large bows are made up of parts. So you don't want to forsake the smaller aspect of what it is that you're doing and forsake the power, the strength in the bow of the hand just because you're thinking of it as part of a larger bow. So see if you can find the smaller bows in the body, but also keep in mind those smaller bows are part of the larger bows. The 5, again, probably more traditional bows in the body, which is from the arms through the chest, so through the chest into the arms, through the abdomen, down the legs, from the left arm down and across the torso into the right leg, from the right arm down and across the torso into the left leg, and the spine. So yes, there are 5 bows, but there are more than that. Right? Feel that bow. Feel the bow of just the sunken chest and rounded back. That's an important one. We talk a lot when we do our Taichi Qigong breathing set, our training set. We've done pieces of that for warm-up. That one of the things that helps us to explore in a less complicated way than doing our Tai Chi floor exercises and forms. That idea of finding your range of motion in your movement and your, moving the arms out away from the body and closer into in different ways. That you are always moving in such a way, reaching your extensions in such a way that you don't lose the sunken chest and rounded back. As you come in, there's a tendency to come in too far. You lose your sunken chest, you lose your rounded back, you lose that bow, and you become vulnerable. So you want to maintain that. So I've been saying so a lot now after I said it's a nice transitional word. Now I'm using it too much. So see, I just did it again. As always, I hope you found this useful, interesting, entertaining, maybe comedic for some of you. Our purpose here is to just drill into different things, give you a different point of view on things, which is, you see that a lot in our Qigong, because what we're doing in our Qigong series right now is comparing different approaches to the same particular piece of brocade. So you see the way that we normally do it, our secondary set, and then a few other versions. Not really saying one's better than the other, just that they're different. And I believe that within our diversity we find strength. Because I tended myself, when it came to the bows, to really focus on the smaller aspects. And as I ran into others who talk more about, you have these 5 larger bows, I'm like, oh, okay. And started to explore it and saw the strength in the idea of having a limited number of bows that are made up of, from my perspective, the smaller bows. So explore, test what it is that you believe and how you believe it, and you'll be better for it. I'll get off my soapbox. Speaking of soapboxes, just keep in mind We're in September, and for some of us in the country, the summer surge is still going on with COVID-19. So just be careful, be conscious, be mindful, and take care of yourselves. Hopefully now, because we had that little glitch in August, we're back on our every 3 weeks. We can't promise anything, but we're going to do our best for as long as we can to stay on that schedule as we move forward for the next few shoots. Keep in mind two last comments. One, we do click the, throw the switch to preview all comments, but a lot of times that doesn't happen. Please, if you have constructive criticism, I mean, again, these are very stripped down, so anything about production quality, that sort of thing, this is what we do and how we do it. Understand. If you understand that, then that's fine. Or if you just want to make a suggestion as to where you would like a focus to go, feel free to do that. But if you flame us, that's not going to work out very well for either of us. And we do also post a link to this video on our Facebook page, which is a little bit more free range. But again, you flame us there, you're not going to last long on our page. So thanks. But constructive criticism, always welcome. Compliments too, by the way. Compliments too. We appreciate those too. So anyway, thank you all very much for your time and attention. Catch you next time. Take care and be sure to get your R on.